in our industry, life insurance, we had a substantial contract reduction to where instead of making my full compensation, I was making about half of that for an entire year. So I made, that was my lowest year. I think that was 2003. That was my lowest year income. That year I made $13,000.
For me, I mean, I didn't have credibility growing up. I was a bad kid. I was one of the bad boys. I got in a lot of trouble. Me and the principal, man, we were best buddies, man. And so that was Daniel Alonzo. So when I got into business, nobody believed me. Nobody trusted me. So I took a lot of heat, man. I took a lot. And plus I'm hanging out with all these, probably people that maybe weren't going to be so successful. And so what happened is they were portraying their lack of confidence onto me, versus if I would have been hanging out with people like you, you'd have been like, yeah, go for it, Daniel. Try it, man. You can do this. You got this. Just study and work hard and be disciplined and get focused and do all the shit you have to do. And then you'll get to where you want to go. So yeah, what you're saying is right on, Joe. Tell me, I mean, did you have any struggles in the business? Tell me about.
Well, that's another story. Now we started off with a lot of credibility and
right.
all of that kind of jazz. But yes, we had a tremendous amount of obstacles we dealt with, really going back to the beginning. So we had a lot of credibility. So we moved to to our first couple of levels of promotion pretty quickly, less than a couple of months. So we were moving pretty quick because we had a lot of credibility. But once we ran out of those people that we knew and we had not really been taught a referral system or a system that could perpetuate that initial success, then I had to get into more of I guess what we consider the nasties and whatnot. And I wasn't very good at that due to, my lack of confidence and all of that kind of jazz. So we initially, well, let's give this part of the story that maybe some of your listeners don't know. In our industry with our company, regional vice president is the goal, kind of like a broker in real estate, that sort of thing. And that's kind of where, okay, you're moving in the right direction to really do something special. Well, it took me 5 years to get there. Right now, if you ask me, so what's the frame of reference? Well, somebody that's really focusing on it should get there maybe 18, 24 months. So it was double that time for me. But there was a lot of things going on there. I mean, we've had houses foreclosed on. We've had cars repossessed. We've had all of those sorts of things. We get to vice president. My first year as a vice president, I've had a couple of teams quit. Like actual, you got 20, 30 people, and those teams quit, and I was making $8,000, $10,000 a month. And I go down to 2,000. We lost a baby along the way, premature birth. The year we lost the baby, that was my first marriage, and the year we lost the baby premature birth, in our industry, life insurance, we had a substantial contract reduction to where instead of making my full compensation, I was making about half of that for an entire year. So I made, that was my lowest year. I think that was 2003. That was my lowest year income. That year I made $13,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I was RVP.
Wow.
I made $2,000 in a year. My office rent was $1,800 a month. I made $13,000. He said, well, wow. that doesn't make sense. Well, I pretty much survived that year on payday loans.
Wow.
Still field training people, still working with them, doing all those things.
So looking back, Joe, what's something, because look, you ain't the only one. All right. I mean, there's a lot of people right now that are going through. I mean, we just had a regional vice president last year came to me. I didn't have a big relationship with them. And they came to me, they were at 27,000 in income. And this was last year. In 365 days, they took their income to 120,000.
Awesome.
But I get what you're saying. I mean, when they came to us, this was like stress. This is a very stressful time. I mean, what would you say is one of the things or a couple of the things that maybe you should have done differently? Like, where did you mess up?
Oh yeah, that's really simple. Well, the first thing I had this propensity over that period of time to what we call go into management too soon. I was really, really good at getting 20, 30 people together. And now in retrospect, it was almost like a governor, like on a car, the governor, there's only so fast that you can push the car and it'll stop you. And so mentally I had that in place, like that was a team, like this is something substantial, because, even at that time, obviously it pays you a whole lot more today, but 20, 30 people back then would pay you about 10 grand, $8,000 to $10,000. I'm making that in override. And so I was going into management and I would stop working. And so now I'm working with my people. I'm not getting any new people. I'm not field training. I'm not doing all these various things. I'm not driving the car myself, right? And we know as leaders now, well, that's just, eventually this is a disaster. You're nowhere near big enough for that to happen. So I would go into management way too fast. I would totally overestimate what I had. Like, so now this is ridiculous now, Daniel, at our level of knowledge, but I would look at this team of maybe 25 people, let's call it, and say, well, these 3 out of this group will be vice presidents, and then I will go to the next level. Well, that's insane. Now, if I had 100, I could look in and go, these 3, and I'm probably would be pretty sure that's going to happen. So I would overestimate. And what it would be is, I need you to be a vice president more than you actually are one. So I can't project that onto you. So that was mistakes that I was making.
Did you ever were you ever at that moment of like throwing in the towel though? I mean, were you ever at that moment?
I think that when you talk to a leader in business and ask them, did they ever think about quitting? And if that person says to you they didn't, holler bullshit real fast, right?
It did pop in your mind.
And so you say, well, why didn't I? And people have asked me that if I tell like the entire story and all the, with the hair and the fangs and the teeth, of the whole thing. If I tell people this very honestly, if I had somewhere else to go that was going to pay me what I believe what was kind of minimum wage in our company, if I applied myself, that number was my 250. I believe that I could get that 250, right? If I just hung in there and get it together. Not $500,000, $1 million. I couldn't conceptualize that at that time. We would say it, we put it on gold cards, but I didn't really believe it. I didn't really even believe I could go over $1 million until I was at about 500,000-600,000. That was just, I could kind of see it then. But the point is that along the way, if somebody would have offered me that 250,000 elsewhere, I'd have been out of here.
If you like this video and you want to watch another one, click right here. If you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.